Hey y'all, what's up? Today I am working on my guitar. The jack for the pickup is messed up. It's not making a good connection. And so what happens is this guitar got broken years ago. There was a kid running through the stage area and there was a cord plugged into it and his foot caught it and it torqued the jack, so it pulled the cord and broke the body of the guitar. It's actually cracked pretty bad under here, which is why I had this replaced. When I took it to get replaced, I asked them to use a chrome jack plate, chrome hardware, and I wanted an oval plate, but this is what I got. I got a white plastic plate with bare metal hardware, and they didn't even put this thing on straight. I don't know if you can tell or not, but it's been irritating me forever. This actually happened probably 15 or 20 years ago, and I never actually did anything about it, but I'm getting tired of dealing with it. So when you plug it in, it works fine, but if you move the cord at all, if the guitar moves and the cord kind of jiggles in there at all, it creates a really, really loud popping noise. So what I'm going to do today is I'm going to get it replaced. I've got a new jack, but I also need to replace the plate. I mean, I don't need to, but I want to. I was looking for an oversized either chrome or nickel plate, and I couldn't find one that was going to fit the guitar. So what I'm going to do is make one out of some 16 gauge steel, and I'm probably just going to make it a little bit longer. I want to get the screw holes far enough away from here that I don't have to use these, but also it doesn't weaken the body anymore, because I want to put mine on straight. So I'm going to make it a little bit wider on each side and maybe just a touch wider this way. It's going to be a little bigger than what I really want it to be, but it's really going to be the only way to fix this. So I'm going to get started by pulling this jack out, and then we'll measure everything and figure out exactly how big I want that jack plate to be, and we'll get everything installed. All right, so we got to get this old one out. I'm going to use a 1/4-inch dowel rod for this. I actually probably need to go ahead and take the strings off of this, so I'm going to go ahead and do that. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to do now that I've got the strings off of this is I'm going to go ahead and get this old pickup jack out. So to do that, I'm going to use a 1/4-inch dowel rod, and I had to sand down the end of it a little bit because although this is a 1/4-inch jack, this must not have been made exactly to a 1/4-inch. But that's actually going to help me because when I put it in here, it's going to get tight right there, and that's going to help me get this nut off of here without the jack spinning. So I'm just going to get that in there, get this loose. So take nut off, take the washer off, and then we can push this back into the body, and this will allow us to get it to right here. I can take this off, and now I've got my pickup jack right here, so that's going to sit there for now. I'm going to go ahead and get this jack plate off, and then we will make the new one and we'll get everything put back together. So we'll go ahead and take this off, and once I get this off, you'll be able to see all the damage on the guitar. All right, so I don't know if you can see that, so I'll pick this up and let you look at it. So this is all the damage that was done. You can see there's a big crack here, there's a crack here, there's a crack here, and then on the inside of the guitar, it didn't make it all the way through. There's actually cracks running this way and some running this way. So you can see it's a pretty significant injury to the guitar. You can see right here. It had one of these styles in it that just set in there like that without an actual jack plate. And so when that cord was attached here, it went this way and it just broke everything that way. So that's what happened to it. Now we're going to fix it. So I think what I'm going to do right now is measure some things and figure out exactly how big I want this plate to be. And then we'll get this mounted in the new one. So this is not the same size, obviously, so I'm gonna have to make my jack plate to this size. And I'm also gonna contour it a little bit because it's gonna be a little wider. This one already didn't sit flush until the screws were in it, and it would kind of pulled it in. But since the new one's gonna be metal and it's 16 gauge steel, it's gonna have to be pre-bent so I don't damage the guitar. So let me go ahead and figure out exactly how big I want this thing, and then we'll go make it. All right, so this is the old jack plate, and it was 1 and call it 1 5/16. So we're gonna definitely need it wider. I think I'm gonna go ahead and make it 2 inches long. Might go 7/16. Let's go 1 7/16 by 2 inches. So before I go make the new jack plate, I forgot one kind of critical piece. So this one, you know, it's got the threads on the outside so you could thread it on. I like the look of this one, and I like how flat it is, but it has to go through and be secured from the back side. So I'm gonna have to get this disconnected. I'm gonna have to get this off of the cabling, and I'm probably gonna have to get it loose from the little hanger that's in there. So this black plug in there is the plug for the pickup. So we're gonna go ahead and disconnect that one. Okay, and now I've got to see if I can get that out of that. I'll take this pickup out of here, and we should be able to see, once I do that, we should be able to see that plate a little better, or that holder a little bit better. All right, so let me show you what we're looking at here. So this right here, you can see where that cable's kind of looped through there. So that's what I'm working with. I'm trying to get this black cable out of that little loop. And I might actually have room. So let me set the camera back up. Oh yeah, I can just unfold it. It's a metal one. I thought it was fabric, or not fabric. I thought it was plastic, but it's actually metal, so I can just unfold it. There we go. Perfect. Beautiful. All right, so we got the whole pickup cable assembly out. That's going to make things a lot easier because now I'll just be able to take this out to the workbench, get this solder off of here, get these disconnected and put them on the new one. And then, like I said, I can just route this through the hole here. Instead of going back in the way it came out, I'll just run this cable down in this hole like this. And then the new one will sit down in there. We'll put the jack plate on there and it'll be all good. All right, so let's go make our plate. And once I've got the plate made, then I'll worry about getting this thing disassembled and getting it attached to the new one. Okay, so this is the sheet metal that we're going to use. Like I said, it's 16 gauge sheet metal. Obviously it's rusted. We're going to do a little bit of cleaning on it. But what I'm going to do first is mark out the size of this thing. So we're going to do, like I said, 2 inches. So we're going to go right here. All right, so 2 inches. And then we're going to do, I've got this right here locked down at 1 7/16, which was the width that we wanted. So I'm just going to scratch this just like that. Okay, so we've got that, and this edge is not quite 100% straight, so I'm going to use my square And I'll still scratch it, but I'm not going to scratch it using that as the guide because it's not going to be straight. Just hang it off the edge a little bit. There we go. So that's our jack plate size. So what I'm going to do is go ahead and cut it out. All right, so this is what we started with, nice rusted sheet metal. And this is what we have now. So I got it cleaned up on the wire wheel over there on the bench grinder. I went ahead and ground it all down smooth. I got the edges flat, and I went ahead and ground the corners down to a nice rounded edge, or nice rounded corner. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to go ahead and mark out my center hole location and cut that out or drill that. And then I'm going to mark my mounting plate locations, or my mounting screw locations. And then once I get that done, I'll go inside and we'll get the contour of the guitar, and then we'll try to see if we can match this to that contour. You can see I got my center mark there. So I'm going to go ahead and punch that and get it marked. And then once it's marked, we will go ahead and drill that out. All right, so the way we do this is I just get a center punch. It's just got a nice sharp point on there, and then you'll just line that up. So just mark, get it right where you want it, and then give it a good tap. And that's going to give us a divot for our drill bit, so the drill bit doesn't walk all over this piece of metal when we're drilling it. So now we just need to figure out what size drill bit we need. So for that, I'm going to use my calipers again. So we will just measure this width, 15-30 seconds. We're going to want it a little bit bigger, obviously. So we'll just go with 1/2 inch. 1/2 inch is going to be a little bit bigger than what I actually want. I'm going to see if I have a 31/64 drill bit. If I do, then that's what we'll use. We'll use a couple smaller bits first and walk our way up so that we don't get an ugly hole. All right, and I do have that drill bit, so we will use that one. All right, so this is going to be our final size. We'll work our way up to it. Probably start with an 1/8 inch. All right, that's our final size. So now I just got to clean up this this edge, and to do that, I'm going to use a step drill bit, or I might just, let me see, I might just hit it with a deburr tool. Let's see how this works first. There we go. All right, that looks good. Okay, so one more thing that I want to do before we contour this is I want to go ahead and drill the mounting holes. So these are the screws that I'm going to use. They're little I don't know exactly what size they are, but they're just little black screws. What I'm going to do is when I get done with this, I'm going to powder coat it. I'm going to powder coat it gloss black. I was originally wanting a chrome one, like I had said before, but I don't have a way to chrome this metal, so I'm just going to powder coat it black. So what I'm going to do is decide exactly where I want these to sit, which is probably going to be right about there. So that's going to be, let's just go 6 millimeters. So we'll just go 6 here. We'll go 6 here. We'll just do that all the way around. So I got all our holes marked. So we will drill them out. So as you can see here, we've got our holes marked. This surface on this piece of metal is nice and clean. There aren't really any bad markings in it. There's a tiny little scuff there, but not much at all. This side, you can see after I did some clamping, we got some nicks in it. So this is going to be the bottom side for me. So I'm going to put this towel in here to protect this clean side as we're drilling this, just to make sure that it doesn't get damaged at all. All right, so what I'm going to do is drill these holes out with an 1/8 inch bit to start. I'm going to use a 7/32 bit to enlarge the top of the hole so that we can countersink this in. I want this head to be flush with this, so we're going to countersink it. But first, let's drill these 1/8 inch holes. All right, so now we can go inside and work on the contouring. All right, so here is our jack port. What I'm gonna do is use this contour gauge. So what this does is it's got all these little tines on it, and as you push it onto a surface, it'll take the shape of that surface. So obviously I don't want to go stabbing my guitar with metal things. So we're going to put some tape on here. Okay, so that's the contour that we need to bend this to. And as you can see with this on here, you know, it definitely needs to be bent, otherwise it's not going to fit properly. So, I think what I'm going to do is take this pattern and draw it out onto a piece of wood, and then I'm going to take that to my drill press and drill through it in a bunch of different times, cut that out, and that way I've got something that I can hammer that metal piece onto to make this contour. Because if I just try and bend it in the vise, it's going to be, you know, it's going to have a bunch of different crease points, and that's not what I want. I want it to be a nice smooth bend. So we will give that a try. Okay, so I've decided what I'm going to use. I'm going to use this piece of wood here. And so I'm just going to cut the contour out. I'm going to mark it with my pencil here. Okay, all right, so that's our line. And then I'm just going to take it over here to the drill press. So what I'm going to do here is just drill a bunch of different holes along this edge here. And then I will either use a chisel or sandpaper or something like that, depending on how clean I get it. And we'll clean it up and get it a nice contour. And then what I can do is I can use this piece, potentially, depending on how well I do. I can probably use this piece here as a die to actually hit on it with. I'll probably, when I get done, attach this to another piece of wood because this is going to be a little thin, and if I'm hitting it, it might break. So let's go ahead and drill these holes first. All right, so there are our two pieces. So I'm going to take it back to the garage and we'll clean it up with probably a chisel and maybe some sandpaper, and then we'll see if we can bend this plate. All right, so I'm going to hit this with sander. There we go. And then we'll do the same thing with this. I'm going to try. Just knock some of that down a little bit. That'll be good, I think. All right, so what I'm going to do now is I'm going to go inside and I'm going to verify that this is still that contour. Since we've kind of done some drilling and sanding and stuff, I'm just going to verify that this is correct. And then, all right, so it does match, so that's good. And we want it to bend this way. We want this, we want the beveled screw holes to be on top, so we're gonna put it in upside down. And I think I've decided against attaching this to anything. Hopefully that doesn't bite me. I'm just gonna hit this with a hammer and hopefully it'll bend how we need it to. All right, we've got a little bit of bend. I don't know if you guys can see that, but it's not quite matching that. I am going to go ahead and heat it up a little bit. I'm not going to get it cherry red. I'll heat it a little bit, just enough to kind of make it a little bit malleable. I'll do this really quick. Alright guys, so I've gotten the plate bent to where it needs to be, and what I've done to make sure that it gets straight this time instead of being a little sideways like the last one was, is I've just taken a small clamp, put it across the guitar and cinched it up because it won't let it actually be cocked to the side. So my plan here, I've got this set to where this hole is going to be right where it needs to be, and so I'm going to use this as my straight edge, and then I'm going to pre-drill all these holes. To do that, I'm going to use a self-centering drill bit. This is from Rockler. This is the set that I've got. It comes with 3 bits of different sizes. And what these do is they have this little taper on them right here. And so you put that in your hole, and then as you drill, it stays centered in that hole. And then it's got a little spring-loaded bit that you just push down on and it drills your hole. So that's what I'm going to be using for this, to make sure everything stays nice and straight and all the holes get put exactly where they need to be. So I'm just going to hold that down. And I think I'm actually going to put the jack in there just to kind of Make sure everything stays centered up really well. All right. You want to get it spinning first before you start pressing. All right, so all those holes you can see are nice and centered up. So I can take this off. Go ahead and take this off. So now all I have to do, since we've got this ready to go, the only thing we have to do now is powder coat it. So let me move this. So I think what I'm going to do is go ahead and get this thing ready for powder coat. Probably go ahead and actually do the powder coating, and then while this is baking in the oven, I'll get the pickup replaced, or get this jack replaced on this cable. All right, y'all, so for the first step for powder coating is sandblasting. If you don't have a sandblaster, you can do this with just a wire wheel and maybe some sandpaper or something, but I have a little portable blast out of a bucket kind of kit here, so I'm going to go ahead and sandblast this. I've already heated it to get all the imperfections out. You always want to heat treat anything you're going to be powder coating, just because it helps burn imperfections out of the metal. So I've already done that. So now I'm just gonna hit it with the sandblaster. I'm using a ground glass media, but we'll just get this nice and clean. Alright, so this is what we've got now that we're done. It's really clean. It's got a little bit of grit to it, so it'll accept that powder really well. You want to make sure that once you're done powder coating or sandblasting, we're going to clean this with acetone, but once you're done sandblasting, you never want to touch this thing with bare hands again. So always have gloved hands whenever you're touching this after it's been sandblasted, and especially after you've cleaned it with acetone. So let's go clean it with acetone, and then we'll get some powder on here. All right, so here's the piece. You can see a little better now that we've got it inside and it's not outside in the weird overcast light. You can see a lot better how that sandblasting really cleaned this thing up. Gets down in all these nooks and crannies and gives it a little bit of a rough finish just to make that powder adhere a lot better. So what we're going to do now, we've already sandblasted it, so we're going to acetone it. Just going to do a little clean with that real quick. Just give it a once over. Make sure that everything is nice and clean. Now you'll notice once we get done with that, we've got these fibers. You really should try to use a lint-free cloth because you definitely don't want those fibers underneath your powder. We can always hit this with the torch real quick and just burn off those little fibers. So I think that's probably what I'm going to do here. Just looking to see if I can see anything else. Should be good. All right, so what we're going to do now is just get the powder applied to this. And to do that, we're going to need some copper to hang it from. So what I need to do with this is get it set so that when it's hanging on the grate, it has room in the oven. So we'll come over here to the oven and I'll show you how we're going to set that up. So basically I just need to make sure that I have room for this thing to hang and not hit any of these elements. So that should be good right there. So we'll just put a little bit of a bend in it, and then I can bend that all the way over, make my little hook, and then I'll just cut this excess off. So I'll cut this off. And that way we can hang it in the oven like that, and it'll be good to go. Okay, this is my powder coating gun. It's an Eastwood gun. It's the Eastwood hot coat dual voltage system. So it's got a 15,000 volt and a 25,000 volt setting here. These are pretty easy to use. Nice thing about them is they're much easier to clean than paint, because all you have to do is spray them out with air. This is the powder we're going to use. It is jet black. I believe this is Eastwood powder, if I remember right. It's either Eastwood or prismatic powders, I can't remember. But anyway, it's jet black, it's high gloss, 80 to 90 gloss units, and I have the cure time on here, so it's 400 degrees for 20 minutes after flow out. If you know anything about powder coating, it goes on as a powder, obviously, and then it'll start to look glossy, and that's what they call the flow out. And then you bake it for 20 minutes after that. I'm just going to dump some of this in here. Yeah, that looks like plenty. So I'm going to get the rest of this. So we'll just attach this to our gun here. And then I'm going to go get the piece set up on our stand. All right, so we're going to get this thing sprayed. So I've got my grounding cable here, and then this is an activation button. So once I hit this, it'll charge the powder coming out of this gun, and then it's grounded there, like I said, so it'll stick to the part. So here we go. All right, that looks pretty good. I've got a couple little pieces. I'm gonna unplug this so I don't get shocked by anything. So I've got a couple little pieces here that are kind of hanging off. Probably little fibers from the towel. So I'm gonna see if I can get those off. There we go. The good part about powder coat is if you screw it up, you just blow it off with air and redo it. But hopefully we won't have to redo anything. Alright, that looks pretty good. I think that corner might need just a little more. Yeah, that's better. Alright, I think that's got everything. I don't know if this is necessary. This stuff may just lay right down when I bake it, but I've only powder coated probably twice. So I just want to make sure that it comes out good the first time. There we go. All right. So we'll take this little ground clamp off, and then go set this thing in the oven. All right. Set this thing in the oven here. So I don't know if you saw while I was coating or while I was putting the powder on, but I had aluminum foil on the edges here. They recommend you do that just if you're spraying with this grate, so just so you don't get powder coat build up on that over time. because if you do, then it can cause it not to sit in there properly. All right, so I've got my heat set on 400. I got both heating elements on. I'm gonna have the fan on. So I'll put it on 20 minutes and then we'll keep an eye on it and make sure that it gets to flow out. And once it gets to flow out, then we'll come back and turn it back on to 20 minutes again. So just gonna give that a few minutes and we'll come back and take a look at it. All right, so we've got flow out. Let's see if I can get you to see this. You can see it's looking a little shiny. So we're gonna bump this back up to 20 minutes. And we'll let it bake. Yeah, that's a better picture right there. So we'll let that bake for 20 minutes and we'll come get it out. Okay, so while our part is baking, I'm gonna go ahead and work on this, this jack here. So we're gonna take this off. I'm gonna try to figure out exactly how this needs to be wired. Looks like the deeper one is on the red, the shallower one is the white. Now I just got to figure out which is which in this. All right, so I've got this thing in my little holder here, which is from Radio Shack, if that tells you how old this thing is. But I'm going to try and get these wires disconnected here. I don't have any solder wicks to like pull this stuff back out. So I'm just going to heat it up and try and pull the wire out. It looks like they just have it sitting on top. I don't think they have it actually threaded through the holes. So we'll see if we can get it loose and get it melted and then get these wires loose. There we go. All right, that one came off nice and easy. So did that one. Perfect. Beautiful. All right, so it looks like the red is going to be for the tip, and then the white will be for the shorter one. So the red is going to go on this longer one, the white will go on the shorter one, and the ground will go on this lug here. And then this has this nice little crimp piece to hold the jacket and everything. I don't know if we'll wind up using that or not. Probably will. But first thing I'm going to do is go ahead and get this ground soldered in here. Get these out of the way. So let's see if I can hold this here. Yes, beautiful. Try and do this where you guys can see. So I'm just going to heat this up right here and put a little bit of solder down in here and get this secured to this ground lug. Good, that's attached, perfect. So you can see what we did there. Just got a little solder on there. Still not the best, but might work with it a little bit more. There we go. That's what I wanted. All right, I don't know if you can see that. Let's see if we can focus in on it. There we go. See, that's a nice solid connection there. Much better. Yeah, that one went much easier. You can see it's got a nice little solder bead on there. So I am going to go ahead and clamp this down on here. That's going to give us a nice solid connection there. So everything should stay nice and tight. Hey y'all, just a quick update. It's been about a week since I recorded the video and I finally had a chance to test everything today and it didn't work. Well, it didn't work initially, so I got everything resolved, but the problem was the wires were backwards. So the red wire is for the tip on the jack, but I thought that being a longer prong sticking up out of the body meant that it was higher up in the body, and that didn't wind up being the case, at least not for this Switchcraft jack. So check yours before you get done with everything. I didn't have a cable or anything to check it with, so I just kind of went with what I had. But today I had a cable available, and so I just plugged the cable into the jack and put one lead of a ohm meter on the solder prong and one lead on the actual other end of the cable, and figured out which lug was for which contact point. And so I got everything switched around, and it works fine now, but let's get back to the video. All right. I'm going to grab the plate out of the oven over here, off of the rack, because it's all done. All right, so this thing just got done. So open it up, take a look. So there is our part. It is nice and shiny. Looks really good. I'm going to take it out of here in just a minute. I'm going to let it cool off first, and then we'll take it out and we'll really take a good look at it. All right, y'all, so here is our homemade jack plate. I think it looks really good. It's got just a couple little dents in it right here, probably from me clamping it and such. But overall, I think it looks really clean. So let's take this thing inside and get it installed. All right, so before we put this thing in the guitar, I've got to go ahead and secure it to the plate. So I went ahead, I've already got the washer on there. We're going to get the nut on it. All right, we got this nice and tight, so let's go ahead and get it mounted in the guitar. So we're going to thread the cord in first, obviously, and then set that in there. There we go. The one thing that I didn't account for was that nut on the back. So I am actually going to have to enlarge this hole. So let's measure this thing. I think it's the same size as that head, 5/8. So I'm going to drill this out with a step bit. I'm going to try and be really careful with it, but let me go grab that bit. Okay, so I'm a little bit concerned with all the damage here, that this is gonna like just break out. So I'm gonna put some tape over it before I start drilling. All right, so I've got my step bit here, and I've marked it with tape at the 5/8 mark, so I don't have to keep stopping and checking it and all that. So we're gonna go ahead and see if we can drill this out. All right, let's see if this fits. I love you too, baby. There we go. That's better. All right, I'm gonna go ahead and put the screws in here. All right, so that's it installed. I think it looks really good. I'm going to go ahead and get the rest of this thing wired up and get the pickup back in here, and we'll be all done. First thing we got to do is get these cables back into this little cable holder here. So we got those set down in there. And before I put this in here, I'm just going to clean all this off real good. All right, so that's ready to go. Let me get this slid back in here. It was a little tight getting it out. These connector ports, we're dragging a little, so we're gonna see. Just gonna see how I can work this in here. There we go. Okay. Got that, so let me get these plugs reconnected in here. All right, so it's all one piece again. So we got our pickup installed. We've got our jack plate and jack installed. So now I'm just gonna get these strings back on and this thing will all be done. I'm gonna go ahead and clean it first before I put the strings back on it. All right, y'all, well, that does it for this one. If it was helpful for you, hit the like button, hit the subscribe, and we will see you guys on the next one.